I, Jeetendra D Soni, a member of GRFDT, welcomes Professor S. Vemuri on the behalf of GRFDT team. Welcome you, sir. And today we are interviewing Professor Vemuri on various issues on diasporic business community and its relationship with various dimensions. Professor Vemuri is having a long academic experience in this area.
Thank you very much, Jeetendra. I think it's a pleasure and a privilege to be here, and I congratulate GRFDT to take these kind of initiatives. I think they're very important. They are leaving a legacy of young scholars who are going to actually benefit from the contribution GRFDT is going to make globally, and I wish everyone a great success.
Thank you. So my first question is there any relationship between the growth of diasporic business community and the dynamics of Indian market?
Yes, I believe that the fundamental issue here is in terms of a relationship, and relationship is based in terms of both cause and effect. And the links that exist between the causes and effects of opportunities as well as in terms of the constraints that the community faces are such that we can establish a very strong association between these two naturally evolving processes. Businesses do not exist in a vacuum. Businesses exist in reality because someone somewhere has thought about it. When a person goes to the shop and says, that is exactly what I wanted to buy, that is where business acumen comes in. Imagine a situation where a young person, your daughter or my daughter, walks into the shop and says, Dad, I want to buy this because this is exactly what I wanted. Imagine the complexity involved in decision making by the business community in order to produce that commodity, in order to design that commodity, in order to go through the whole process of the value chain, in order of the supply chain, in order to create that product in the market so that the people who demand that product or a service can actually use it.
And get the satisfaction.
So therefore, when it comes to the dynamics in the Indian market, and the Indian market is very, very dynamic because of inherent characteristics, because of its dynamism of people, dynamism of resources, the dynamics of change that we are all witnessing globally. Therefore, what happens effectively is businesses, people working in businesses don't sit idle. They pick up the cues, they want to run as fast as they can, and the diaspora are creating new business formations on a multitude basis just to provide the opportunity for them to look at the bottom line for themselves.
My second question is how the Indian business community is creating their own space on foreign events.
What happens in the Indian business communities? I'm so glad we did use the word "the" because Indian business community is many communities, as you know. One of the fundamental principles underlying business community is its diversity. And therefore, when you actually look at the various diversity opportunities the Indian business community has abroad, it is starting to emerge that there are some who are looking at it from the past, there are some who are looking at it from the present, there are some who are looking at it from the future. It's almost like as if we all have a shadow. There are some of us who follow the shadow. There are some of us, the shadow follows us. There are some of us whose shadow is side by side. The difference is in terms of where does the light come from? If the light comes from the front, that is, if the light is based in terms of the future frameworks and future opportunities and futuristic perspective, the business community is quite different to someone who looks at the past and says, I'm an Indian, I'm a Gujarati, I'm a Pakistani, I'm a Tamilian, whatever. Their perspective of what business opportunity is caught in the past. So therefore, when your question being, in the Indian business community is creating their own spaces. They are creating multitude of spaces based in terms of the present, the past, and the future.
In your perception, what are the effects of growth of diasporic Indian business community in their homeland and its impact on India?
You see, the homeland is a shifting word. Because what happens effectively is there are many generations of Indians who have been living abroad. And not all Indians who live abroad are members of the diasporic community. So there are some Indians who do not want to be associated as diaspora for whatever reason. So therefore, when it comes to actually looking at their contribution, the contributions are both direct and indirect. The direct contributions are based in terms of, in the traditional sense, people sending money. And there is something called the 7-year itch that happens. As an individual belonging to the diaspora community, people think about investing first in their homeland, through their family or through their vocation in terms of the buildings or the opportunity.
At the beginning.
And as 7 years go by, and as capital accumulates in the homeland, I would say in the local space, rather than just in the homeland. For example, somebody who comes from Rajasthan would like to invest in Rajasthan because they are in a particular area. So therefore what happens is it's no longer a question about India. It's a question of within India, where is that opportunity? So 7 years, the data suggests that for 7 years, a new diaspora would like to contribute by sending remittances, whatever, wherever it is. After 7 years, they start to invest in the country where they are. Because they realize that they have to start building a capital base somewhere else. It's like a portfolio of investments. And therefore what they do is they don't put all money in one basket. What they try to do is to, first of all, solidify their own foreign investments. And then they want to actually start to accumulate business opportunities in the place they are. When that gets saturated, i.e. when there is a structural change or shift, then they start to link up with other people of their own community in other parts of the world in order to invest again. So the direct effect and the indirect effect are based in terms of what impact it is going to have and when that impact is going to take place.
Like on the basis of research, you have mentioned that initially, for 7 years, there is a big flow of remittances. But can you give light on those businesses which are having roots in India? I mean, the goods or services which they used to take from India and sell them?
Well, yes, indeed, because if you look at the whole historical trend of international trade, take the spice routes from India under Marco Polo and so on. What had happened was that the literature suggests that as people were able to carry with them the trade of commodities, the banking sector developed to facilitate the transaction of converting goods for money and money for goods. So the first thing that happened was when people migrated, people took with them the level of skills that they had as a business community. And then they went door to door. One of the classic examples here is in terms of selling textiles in Thailand. Indian businesses did not have to have fixed costs to establish any shops. They used to carry the textiles on a cycle or a pack or whatever, and they used to go from home to home, door to door, to sell, and then on a loan, and they used to go and collect the money at the same time on a periodic basis. So that was the origins of interaction with the host communities as businesses. And Indians do a very good job of this because we are used to doing it. Other people don't necessarily have that acumen.
They might have hesitation from this.
Exactly.
My next question is, how diaspora business is transformed with the time of rising transnationalism?
Oh, very much so. Because what happens effectively is that business is what is business ultimately? Business is an organizational scheme. And the structure of business keeps emerging. You initially had a single, what they call the mama and the papa business traders. And then as they accumulated wealth, their structure became small family enterprises. As the capital built again, in terms of after 7 years, as I mentioned to you, then they were actually started to emerge in terms of a small to medium enterprises. As they became bigger and bigger, they expanded using extended families, extended family networks, and the family here I define not just in terms of the immediate family or cousins and so on. It is the family that is evolving in the diasporic community itself. That's why it's not a surprise when people call me an uncle in terms of the diaspora, because they say, well, you are a family member. When Rakhi happens in the community or when people celebrate it, they are not looking for their blood relatives, they are looking for their adopted relatives, my children and so on. So the notion of family-run businesses is extended beyond the actual core of looking at the community as a family, so that there are the same complexities as a family. The cousins don't get along. So similarly, there are some members of the Indian community or the diaspora don't get along. The dynamics of extended family networks in a business context is ever increasing. So therefore, what's happening effectively is, as the communities mature, as individuals mature, you start to negotiate and renegotiate the structure of business. And that is why I'm saying that the diaspora business is an entirely different form of organizational structure rather than an international business converted into diaspora.
And getting new dimension with transnational.
Absolutely.
My next question is, in what way the changing political scenario is affecting the business environment for diasporic community in the host countries?
Oh, very much so, because there is a lot of tension now between, I think I mentioned that in my presentation as well. One of the challenges that we are facing at the moment is the tension that exists between the existing way of thinking and the modern way of thinking. These are becoming extremely contested spaces. There has been a big debate going on in terms of the structural revolution of understanding of diaspora business. It is not an extension of transnational literature. It's also not a question of the weak interdisciplinarity that I was talking about in my presentation. Because it is actually based in terms of saying that we need to actually look at the type of work, your own work, for example, in terms of actually looking and saying an in-depth analysis of what is it to be in business. That has to be looked at from a multidisciplinary perspective, from a transdisciplinary perspective, from an interdisciplinary perspective, where we start to think in terms of transnational global linkages. And that is why I think a platform like the GDRT is extremely crucial, because universities stifle often the way of the growth of this particular way of thinking. And institutions like GDRT are a very important part and parcel of the future of inquiry into these type of businesses. And that is why I think it's important for us to actually start thinking about defining the problem right, conceptualizing what the issue is. And the greatest Indian philosophers, as I mentioned in my presentation, was 1/3 is only from the books and the references that we actually use. We have to start thinking about the other 2/3.
Then only we can adopt an inclusive approach.
And transnational approach. And trans-institutional approach. So that's why you cannot have the stifles of existing institutions controlling the purse of inquiry.
Sure. What way the Indian government policies can facilitate the growth of Indian business community abroad and get advantage of this for the Indian state?
See, the thing is that there are 4 layers of analysis in your question. The first layer of analysis is the influence of government policy. policy on the Indian diaspora. The second is, as you know, the government is not one layer of government. There are state governments and national government. I remember sitting in a number of visits by state government business ministers. At the same time, I remember sitting with the minister visit of business at the union level, coming to the same place, to the same community, address the issue. So we have to first of all sing from the same tune, the song. So one of the fundamental things that we have to do is to ask the question, what is the stated role of the local government, the local panchayats, the state governments, and the national government? Unless we are very clear about what their roles are, and it could be based in terms of the extent of money that is required, the nature of the complexity of the projects. So this needs the political scientists to actually sit down with an economist, historian, with all these people that want to approach, to ask the question, say, what are the expectations of these governments? Because you, by commonness, you go to the lowest common denominator.
Sure.
Whereas managing diversity at various echelons of the government is the first challenge, I think.
And that is the biggest challenge.
It is one of the challenges. We don't have to wait for the government to solve it. But at the same time, we need to have a think tank of scholars like you, like me, to sit down and write up 5 papers, good papers, in terms of saying, what is the role of the state government? What is the role of the communal government, national governments within the host country as well as the home country? Bilateral relations, multilateral relations. How does it happen that the same group of Indian businessmen were hit by 3 different layers of government coming into the same place, and the Indian businessman says, where do I stand with this? So that's one layer of complexity that we need to actually address. And it is the responsibility of the academic community to join together in a working group that actually starts to think about it.
And we should find a good interlinkages between these 2 layers.
Exactly. The second challenge, to answer your question, is based in terms of governments are getting poorer, and that's because the taxable income is changing. There are many initiatives by all governments to increase their taxable capacity, because those people who are actually using the tax, i.e. in terms of government revenue, is getting bigger and bigger than those who are actually contributing. For example, in the case of India's population, we have got a large young population that is not contributing to tax, potential tax. But you need services. At the same time, you've got people aging in terms of the various ways of being there. So, on the one hand, the governments are all feeling the crunch of the financial crunch. On the other hand, we are also looking at it from the point of view of raising the ability of governments to service the needs of the people. So in doing this, the question that comes up again and again is, what can the business community do to their own people, to their own families? Because this is what I call the infusion effect of diaspora's involvement in infusing the way in which economic prosperity can take place. So the second complexity involved is in terms of the role of the Indian business community and how it can infuse the carrying capacity of the needs of the people in order to do that. And this is where I think some of the international NGOs come into the picture, because one of the things that happens is that if you apply what is called the Maslow's needs analysis, you will see that there are a lot of Indian business communities who have actually got the higher needs now.
Yeah.
They're self-actualized.
Yes.
And therefore, What they're interested in doing is they want to find an appropriate forum. So I think what we really need to do again is a group of us, GRPT, we need to actually sit down and focus in terms of the relationship between the international NGOs as well as in terms of betterment using Indian diaspora community, both in terms of skills transfer, both in terms of all the transfers that you were talking about, in your own paper, in terms of the motivation to change. The third complexity that I find is, and this is something which I've been working on with the Greek diaspora in particular, because as you know, the Greek economy went through a financial crisis, and the official statistics is tourism is one of the linchpins of the community, and therefore people were saying visiting friends and relatives segment of the tourism market is not very high, whereas people spending money in big international hotels is actually much larger. But the problem, of course, is that is a misconstrued way of thinking about diffusing the expenditure, because most of the companies where the data exists in terms of carrying capacity of the beds or hotel expenditures, based in terms of the surveys that people do, they are saying that this is the money that we are spending in the economy through big international hotels. But the international hotels themselves are siphoning off the capital that is required for development purposes. So therefore, although the VFR, the visiting family and relatives segment of the tourism market is small, but that money circulates within the economy. So therefore, we need to actually make sure that that particular expenditure is captured in our imagination. So therefore, I'd like to actually see a third project with GRPT that actually looks at a multidisciplinary approach or interdisciplinary approach towards actually understanding the diasporic tourism expenditures.
We will definitely take care of this.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure meeting with you, and we got insight on the issues which we have discussed. I have discussed with you, and I'm very thankful. And I thank you very much from the entire team of GRPT. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. It's been a pleasure and all the very best.
Thank you.